What if The Curse of the Mummy wasn't just a plot for the screen? After the film ended, many cast members from The Mummy departed this world in the most painful and deafening silence. From accidents and depression to sudden deaths, each of them carried a secret they never spoke of until their final breath. Let's uncover their real names and pay tribute to the legacies they left behind. Let's go. Bernard Fox as Winston Havlock. In 1999, when he was 71 years old, Bernard Fox appeared in the blockbuster The Mummy, playing Winston Havlock, a charmingly eccentric British pilot. His character added a unique flair, a strange gentleman in the deadly desert, carrying the romantic spirit of a bygone era of adventure. However, behind what seemed like a brief role was a legendary veteran who had spent nearly his entire life under the spotlight. Bernard Fox, real name Bernard Lawson, was born on May 11, 1927 in Port Talbot, Wales. He was the fifth generation in a family of performers. He began acting when he was only 18 months old, and by the time he was 14, he was already working as a theater assistant manager. But the path was far from easy. A nomadic life, an unstable childhood, and the pressure to carry on the family legacy left him torn between passion and destiny. He later turned to Hollywood to free himself from that burden. His career initially flourished, but after The Mummy, it began to decline. At that time, Hollywood was shifting in taste. Quirky supporting roles were gradually replaced by younger faces. Fox once shared that the pressure of always having to make people laugh wore him down mentally, even though he always maintained a discreet and professional public image. On December 14, 2016, Bernard Fox died of heart failure at Valley Presbyterian Hospital in Van Nuys, California, at the age of 89. His net worth at the time of his death was estimated at around $3 million, a modest sum compared to a career spanning more than 100 roles over 5 decades. And in the end, the image that remains is the moment Winston Havlock raises his head, takes a sip of liquor, and speaks of death as if it were just one final flight. Stephen Dunham as Henderson. When he was 33 years old, Stephen Dunham appeared in The Mummy, 1999, as Isaac Henderson, a witty gunman and a member of the mercenary team exploring Hymenoptera. His performance brought humor to a tense atmosphere and left an impression with his character's tragic end when the mummies rose. Few people knew that behind that smile was someone who was struggling to survive in the high-pressure world of Hollywood. Born on September 14, 1964, in Boston, Massachusetts, Stephen Dunham, birth name Stephen Dunham Bowers, grew up in Manchester, New Hampshire, in a working-class family. Before becoming an actor, he spent years wrestling with minor roles, failed auditions, and living in the shadows of more prominent stars. During that time, his marriage to actress Alexandra Lee was his only anchor amid a shaky career. Though he consistently worked in television and film, from Monster-in-Law, Dag to Get Smart, Dunham was constantly running to avoid being forgotten. He once opened up about the exhaustion of having to work non-stop just to remain visible, a silent pressure that Hollywood never talks about. Stephen Dunham passed away suddenly on his 48th birthday, September 14, 2012, due to a heart attack while in Burbank, California. His death came as a shock, happening just as he had completed filming Paranormal Activity 4, alongside his real-life wife. The film had just wrapped, and the farewell message had to be hastily added to the final credits. His net worth at the time was estimated at around $2 million, not a large sum for such a long career, but enough to preserve the memory of a quiet life lived in full dedication. Aharon Epipali as Pharaoh Seti were. In 1999, when he was 58 years old, Aharon Epipali appeared in The Mummy as Pharaoh Seti I, the supreme ruler of ancient Egypt, who discovered the forbidden affair between Imhotep and Anku Namun. Epipali's portrayal of Seti I was more than just a pharaoh. He was a symbol of punishment, power, and destiny. Although he appeared only in a flashback, His role marked the beginning of the entire terrifying curse that drove the film series. Born on December 27, 1941, in Morocco, Aharon Epipali and his family immigrated to Israel when he was still a child and grew up amid the hardships of the post-World War II immigration wave. After serving in the Israeli military, he left his homeland and moved alone to London to study at drama school. Starting with television plays, his role as Jesus Christ in Christ Recrucified brought him into the spotlight. But that was only the beginning of a long and difficult journey. Epipali struggled to establish himself in the Western entertainment industry, where he was often typecast in Middle Eastern or religious roles. Although he appeared in major series like Knight Rider, MacGyver, Charlie's Angels, and many others, he was rarely called to the center stage. When he returned to Israel in 2012 after decades of living in London and Los Angeles, he dreamed of recreating his former glory. But things had changed. The media was quiet, and audiences no longer remembered. For someone who had once stood alongside Burt Lancaster, that might have been the most painful blow of all. Aharon Epipali died of cancer on June 27, 2016, at Sheba Medical Center in Tel HaShomer, at the age of 74. His death left those who remembered the mummy in silent reflection. His estimated net worth was around $1 million, not a large sum, but one that reflected the perseverance of an actor who never stopped working. The last lasting image is perhaps the cold gaze of Pharaoh Seti I, silently watching the woman he loved betray him, a look not of anger, but as if to say, history will not forget. And neither will we. Brendan Fraser as Rick O'Connell. Brendan Fraser was 30 years old when he took on the role of Rick O'Connell in The Mummy, 1999. A brave, clever, and charming adventurer who led the entire journey to hunt down the mummy and uncover ancient secrets. With his natural acting and rugged physique, Fraser transformed Rick from a mercenary into a classic action hero and romantic lead, the central figure in one of the most beloved adventure franchises of the early 21st century. But behind the glory was a man slowly slipping into darkness. Brendan James Fraser was born on December 3, 1968, in Indianapolis, Indiana, into a Canadian family that frequently moved across Europe and North America. Just as he was reaching the peak of his fame through blockbuster films, Fraser was silently enduring numerous physical and emotional injuries. Throughout the 2000s, he underwent multiple surgeries from doing his own stunts, including partial knee replacement, spinal surgery, and vocal cord repair. But the deepest wound didn't come from the set. In 2003, Fraser was sexually assaulted by Philip Burke, former president of the HFPA. While Burke claimed it was just playful, Fraser recounted in a choked voice that Burke groped his genitals, making him feel sick like a wounded child. Fraser broke down. He fell into depression, withdrew from Hollywood, and divorced Afton Smith in 2007 after a highly publicized legal battle over finances and child custody. In the shadows, he fought, against pain, public opinion, and himself. Brendan Fraser is still alive, but a part of him died in those years. He was reborn through his powerful role in The Whale, 2022, winning an Oscar and reigniting global empathy. At 56 years old in 2025, with an estimated net worth of $20 million, Fraser is not just an actor making a comeback. He is a symbol of survival. That image of him holding the Oscar tightly, tears falling as the crowd applauded, became a historic moment. Rachel Weiss as Evelyn Carneahan. In 1999, when she was just 29 years old, Rachel Weiss skyrocketed to global fame with her role as Evelyn Carneahan in The Mummy. Portraying a witty, intelligent, and courageous Egyptologist, Weiss was not just the female sidekick beside Rick O'Connell. She was the central figure in the journey to uncover Hamunaptra and confront the mummy's curse. Evelyn was a unique blend of scholarship and survival instinct, a leading lady unlike most in the male-dominated adventure genre. Rachel Hannah Weiss was born on March 7, 1970, in Westminster, London. Though widely praised as an English rose with classical beauty and academic grace, her private life has carried many quiet shifts. In 2001, she began a relationship with director Darren Aronofsky, a creative romance that lasted nearly a decade, resulting in an engagement and the birth of their son, Henry. But in 2010, they announced their separation. Not long after, Rachel surprised the public by marrying James Bond actor Daniel Craig in a secret ceremony with only 4 people in attendance. The couple has remained intensely private, splitting their time between London and Brooklyn, and in 2018, they welcomed their daughter Grace, a quiet piece completing their low-profile family. Success didn't come easily for Rachel Weiss, and keeping it was even harder. At a time when Hollywood rarely empowered female leads in action films, Weiss had to fight to ensure that Evelyn wasn't reduced to a damsel in distress. She has never been caught up in tabloid scandals, but she has spoken about the exhaustion of having to work relentlessly to maintain her position in an industry that prioritizes youth and appearance. Being a mother, a wife, and still an A-list actress, all had to be balanced simultaneously. These quiet pressures aren't always spoken aloud, but they are reflected in the calm gaze and layered performances she brings to the screen. Today, at 55 years old, Rachel Weiss remains an icon of elegance and resilience in cinema. Her estimated net worth is around $40 million, largely earned through acclaimed roles in The Constant Gardener, Oscar win, The Favorite, BAFTA win, Black Widow, and the upcoming Thunderbolts 2025. In a viral video from 2024, a former neighbor in New York shared, "Rachel and Daniel lived right above me for 10 years, and they were always kind, quiet, and courteous." Perhaps that is the truest image of her. A quiet, composed star. Arnold Vosloo as Imhotep. Arnold Vosloo was 37 years old when he took on the role of Imhotep in The Mummy, 1999. An ancient Egyptian high priest cursed into a living nightmare, a villain wielding supernatural powers and layered with psychological conflict. With his piercing features, haunting gaze, and a skeletal physique straight from the tomb, Vosloo turned Imhotep into a symbol of fear, desire, and immortal resurgence that burned into the memory of global audiences. Born on June 16, 1962, in Pretoria, South Africa, Arnold Vosloo did not enter Hollywood on a red carpet. He began in local theater, then struggled upon moving to the U.S., a place where roles for a white African male actor were scarce. Appearance pressures also stood in his way. To play Imhotep, Vosloo had to undergo extreme weight loss, admitting he was too chubby before filming began. Fierce competition, cultural anonymity, and harsh industry expectations made his rise a tense and lonely climb, though he rarely spoke of it publicly. But it was in his personal life that the shadows quietly crept in. After a first marriage that ended in divorce after just 3 years, Arnold married Sylvia Ahi, a Mexican-American marketing executive, in October 1998, just months before landing his most iconic role. For nearly 3 decades, they stood side by side in animal rights campaigns and maintained a model public image. However, TMZ has now confirmed Sylvia filed for divorce in June 2025, ending their 27-year marriage due to irreconcilable differences. More notably, they had been separated since April 2022, meaning their parting had quietly stretched over 3 years in complete silence. Today, Arnold Vosloo remains composed at age 63, with an estimated net worth of about $4 million. And if you look closely at his quiet pauses in recent interviews, perhaps you'll sense it too. A part of Arnold Vosloo was left behind, in the past, where the mummies awoke, and the human heart was forgotten. John Hannah as Jonathan Carneahan. John Hannah was 37 years old when he portrayed Jonathan Carneahan in The Mummy, 1999. the witty, mischievous older brother of Evelyn, who brought laughter and the perfect balance of action and humor to the intense adventure. With his quick dialogue and perfectly timed, bewildered expressions, Hannah made his character unforgettable, not just a comedic sidekick, but part of the soul of the mysterious journey. Born on April 23, 1962, in East Kilbride, Scotland, John Hannah experienced a rocky path in the world of acting. Before gaining fame with 4 weddings and a funeral, he worked as an electrician and often questioned whether he truly existed in the eyes of the public. On stage, Hannah constantly wrestled between his deeply artistic nature and being typecast in comedic roles. In one interview, he expressed an existential doubt. Am I a figment of somebody else's imagination? His marriage to actress Joanna Roth, since 1996, has been a solid anchor in his life. But even that didn't shield him from the feeling of dislocation between stage and reality. With 2 children and a family to ground him, Hannah once shared his sense of loneliness while trying to balance commercial films and his deep passion for theater. His role in the Titanic Orchestra made him reflect on himself as though he were an illusion. As of 2025, John Hannah is still alive at age 63, with an estimated net worth of $6 million. He has chosen a quiet life focused on art and family. Oded Fehr as Ardith Bey. Oded Fehr was 28 years old when he played Ardith Bey in The Mummy, 1999, a defining role in the iconic Mummy film series. As the fierce leader of the Medjay tribe, Ardith Bey was not only a loyal ally to Rick and Evelyn, but also became a mystical symbol tied to the film's exotic Eastern soul. With sharp eyes, a calm aura, and a deep, resonant voice, Fehr captivated global audiences and helped turn The Mummy into a box office phenomenon. Born on November 23, 1970 in Israel, Oded Fehr entered Hollywood facing no shortage of challenges. With his Middle Eastern background, he had to overcome stereotypes and was often cast in dangerous or mysterious roles due to his distinctive appearance. However, he broke through those limits and solidified his place with impressive roles in Resident Evil, Sleeper Cell, NCIS, and even as the voice of Osiris in the video game Destiny 2. Though never caught in major accidents or scandals, Fehr once shared that working in such a high-pressure environment taught him resilience and confidence in every appearance. Oded Fehr's marriage is also a rare story of peace and longevity in Hollywood. He met his wife, Rhonda Tollefson, at the Los Angeles Opera on December 22, 2000, a fateful moment he still treasures. Rhonda has been not only his spouse but also his partner through every step of life. Together they have 3 children, a son named Atticus and 2 daughters, Finley and Azalea. Despite his fame, Fehr has kept his family life private and peaceful, something rare under Hollywood's spotlight. Now, at 54 years old in 2025, Oded Fehr continues working steadily in the entertainment industry with an estimated net worth of about $3 million. He has not only conquered film, but also expanded into television and gaming, showcasing his versatility and endurance throughout his career. Even after more than 2 decades since he first appeared with a sword slung across his back in The Mummy, the image of Ardith Bey still lives on vividly in the hearts of audiences. Kevin J. O'Connor as Benny Gabbore. Kevin J. O'Connor was 37 years old when he portrayed Benny Gabbore in The Mummy, 1999, a supporting role that left a lasting impression on audiences. With his sharp performance, O'Connor transformed Benny into one of the most hated yet highly entertaining villains. Though he constantly betrayed Rick and his friends, Benny's cowardice mixed with humor made him impossible to look away from. It was a true testament to O'Connor's mastery of unique character roles. Born on November 15, 1963 in Chicago, Kevin J. O'Connor received formal theater training at the theater school at DePaul University. He began his film career with the role of a rebellious young poet in Peggy Sue Got Married, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. From there, O'Connor consistently appeared in various films, especially in those directed by Stephen Sommers, who considered him a favorite and frequently cast him in quirky or eccentric roles. From Igor in Van Helsing to Dr. Mindbender in G.I. Joe. But he didn't stop at entertainment blockbusters. Paul Thomas Anderson also entrusted him with a key role in There Will Be Blood, where he starred alongside Daniel Day-Lewis in one of the most acclaimed films of the century. At 63 years old, 2025, Kevin J. O'Connor remains a dedicated and respected figure in the film industry. Though he rarely takes on leading roles, he stands out through the range and depth of every character he plays. His estimated net worth is around $2 million. Not enormous, but a reflection of a persistent, serious, and artistically rich career spanning more than 3 decades. Patricia Velasquez as Anku Namun. Patricia Velasquez was 28 years old when she played Anku Namun in The Mummy, 1999. The powerful lover of the priest Imhotep and the soul of the curse that started it all. With her seductive and mysterious appearance, Patricia gave the character a depth that extended beyond beauty, captured in her eyes, in the way she betrayed the Pharaoh for passion. The role made her a symbol of dangerous allure and one of the film's unforgettable highlights. But beneath that golden makeup, Patricia's real life was marked by darkness that few dared to speak of. She was born on January 31, 1971, in Maracaibo, Venezuela, into a poor family, her father of mixed descent and her mother from the indigenous Wayuu tribe. She grew up feeling ashamed of her ethnicity. Patricia once lied to friends, claiming she was Mexican to avoid discrimination as a poor indigenous girl. Yet racial prejudice was only the beginning. To afford the cost of competing in Miss Venezuela at age 17, she was driven to sex work. That was followed by years of cocaine addiction in Spain, a time she admitted losing all sense of direction. It wasn't until she starred in Liz en Septiembre, playing a terminally ill lesbian woman, that she found the courage to come out and confront her true identity. "I used to live in isolation because I feared being judged," she once shared. It was a journey from hell back to the light. Patricia wandered through France and the U.S., signed modeling contracts with top brands, and appeared in major films and hit shows like CSI Miami. She became the first Latina model on the cover of CoverGirl magazine and used her fame to advocate for the Wayuu community. Though crushed at times by pressure, addiction, and prejudice, Patricia never abandoned her mission to live authentically and help others. As of 2025, Patricia Velasquez is 54 years old, with an estimated net worth of around $3 million. Once a Wayuu girl who hid her identity, she is now a symbol of truth and healing. The image of her sitting on the cover of her memoir Straight Walk, eyes steady and full of emotion, has become an emblem for countless women who have once been silenced by fear. Avari as Dr. Terrence Bay, the curator. Avari was 47 years old when he took on the role of Dr. Terrence Bay in The Mummy, 1999. A calm, insightful, and pivotal character in unraveling the mysteries of Imhotep's curse. As the curator of the Cairo Museum, he was not only a bridge between Evelyn and ancient knowledge, but also a silent warrior, sacrificing himself to protect a secret that should never have been awakened. With intelligent eyes and a classic demeanor, Avari infused this supporting role with remarkable depth, leaving a lasting impression on viewers. But behind the man who played an Egyptian was a journey full of inner conflict and societal prejudice. Born on April 13, 1952, in Darjeeling, India, into a prestigious Parsi Zoroastrian family, Avari is a descendant of Jamshedji Framji Madan, one of the founding fathers of Indian cinema. Yet stepping into Hollywood, that lineage did not make his path easier. Avari once candidly shared that for decades he was typecast in outsider roles, from Arab to Indian, from priest to terrorist, simply because of his heritage. Even though he portrayed more than 24 different ethnicities on screen, those invisible boundaries made him feel seen, but never truly recognized. On one occasion, he was invited to audition for a role he had originally played, only to be rejected for not looking American enough. Avari never raised his voice in protest, but he fought in his own way, steadfastly, quietly, and without ever giving up. Before moving to Los Angeles in 1991, he was a celebrated stage actor beloved by critics. He later reached new heights in film and television with appearances in Stargate, Independence Day, Planet of the Apes, Hachi, A Dog's Tale, and most recently, as Nicodemus in The Chosen. That role marked a turning point and a graceful farewell as he nearly announced his retirement afterward. As of 2025, Eric Avari is 73 years old with an estimated net worth of around $1 million. With over 100 roles throughout his career, his true value lies in his ability to rise above prejudice without losing his identity. One of his most haunting images appears in The Chosen, when Nicodemus weeps, unable to abandon his social standing to follow his faith. Omid Jalili as God Hassan, the Warden. Omid Jalili was 33 years old when he played God Hassan in The Mummy, 1999, a character who brought the only real comic relief to a film otherwise filled with curses, mummies, and ancient Egyptian dread. As the cowardly and greedy prison warden, Jalili's God Hassan offered a rare bit of satire, giving audiences a moment to breathe between the film's intense chase scenes. Though he appeared only in the film's first act, his distinctive charm and expression made this a standout comedic performance. Born from a space between two worlds, Jalili never truly felt like he belonged anywhere. He was born on September 30th, 1965, in London, into an Iranian Baha'i family, a religious minority persecuted across the Middle East. Growing up in an England still unfamiliar with cultural diversity, Jalili once said he felt too Iranian to be British, but too British to be Iranian. Teased for his looks, name, and origins, he struggled with identity crises throughout his youth. The prejudice led him to initially hide his background and use humor as a protective shield. But that very humor became the key to unlocking fame. Through sharp, introspective stand-up routines, "I'm not a terrorist, I'm just terrible in the kitchen," Jalili not only won over British audiences, but also became one of the few internationally recognized Middle Eastern comedians. From Broadway stages to film roles in Gladiator, Spy Game, and Sex and the City 2, he masterfully wove stories of immigration, faith, and identity into every performance. And now, as he enters his 60s, he has decided to write his next chapter himself, founding Tiny Speck Productions with his family, aiming to explore society's big questions through a lens of optimism. As of 2025, Omid Jalili's estimated net worth is around $2 million. But to him, the greatest legacy is not wealth, it's the ability to make people laugh and think. His most memorable quote? Perhaps the one from a live performance. "When you laugh, your brain lights up. And when your brain lights up, the world doesn't seem so scary." In a time marked by fear and division, Jalili has chosen to be a tiny speck of light in the dark. But behind all the glory and shadows, what is the real cost of cinematic immortality? Do you still remember them? The faces that once made us hold our breath in The Mummy? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with us as we uncover more secrets behind the scenes.